Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, old and full of years, and was gathered to his people. His sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar, the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried with his wife, Sarah. Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had resided as aliens. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years, and Isaac breathed his last. He died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. I have spent a lot of time on this podcast telling the story of the family of Abraham and Sarah and the family of their son Isaac and his wife Rebekah. And if you have followed these stories here, or in the original biblical text, one thing in particular stands out about this family. Just how dysfunctional it is. There are so many stories of betrayal and cheating. There are lies and half-truths. There is rape and theft, and one story of what seems like attempted murder. This family was messed up. Every family has its problems, of course, but everything is dialed up to 11 in their case. And yet, in the midst of all this dysfunction, we have these two touching episodes that I just read to you. When Abraham dies, his two sons set aside their grievances and everything else that their family has done to them and come together to bury him. And then, when Isaac dies in the next generation, his two sons do the same. These are touching moments, to be sure. But I must admit that it makes me a bit curious. Funerals are key moments in our lives when we have to process our personal, emotional baggage. And these were people who had a lot of emotional baggage. So I wonder how it might have all come out on those mournful occasions. We do not really know very much about how they buried their dead in the ancient Near East. But I would like to imagine that one of the things that they might have done is something that we still do. They might have taken some time to speak well of the dead before those who gathered, to give what we call a eulogy. So I do wonder what Ishmael and Isaac, and then Esau and Jacob, might have said on those occasions. This is Retelling the Bible. Episode 9.19, 4 Eulogies at 2 Funerals. A large crowd has gathered around the entrance of the cave of Machpelah. They are all important men, rulers among the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, among many other nations. And they have all come to honor a man who came to live among them, and that they learn to respect deeply. They chatter incessantly among themselves until they all fall silent when a handsome young man finally steps up onto the podium and begins to speak. Hello? Hello, everyone. Hi. In case some of you don't know me, I am Ishmael, the eldest son of Abraham. On behalf of my brother Isaac and I would like to thank you all for being here today. Now, I know we are all here to celebrate a great man, a fantastic warrior, and probably the greatest haggler who ever lived. Why, I've heard it said that Abraham could have haggled Yahweh himself down to paying 10 righteous men in exchange for an entire city. But, of course, whatever Abraham was to all of you, he was one thing above all others to me. He was... I'm sorry. He was my dad. And when I thought of all the things that he ever gave me in his life, there was one thing above all others that stood out in my memory. It was a long time ago. Isaac, brother, you may not even remember it because it was around the time when you were weaned, so you couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old. Around that time, Sarah, that's Isaac's mom, took offense to me. I didn't really know why, but she went to Dad and told him in no uncertain terms that she wanted me and my mom kicked out of the family. And do you know what my father did? Did he stand up to Sarah? Did he say that she was being unreasonable? No. No, what he did was give me and my mom 2 things. This skin of water and this bag of bread. Yeah. That's all. And then he sent us out. As you may well guess, I was not very pleased with my dad that day. And neither were you, right, Mom? But I'll tell you something. We could have died that day. We probably came pretty close, though I don't think Mom ever told me how close. But something else happened that day. My mother met with a God in the wilderness, and that God promised her that I would become the leader of a great nation. Ever since that day, I have carried with me this water skin and this bag that the bread was in. The last 2 things that my father ever gave me. I've carried them as a reminder that I could not count on him to make my way in the world. I would count on God and on myself. And on that foundation, I grew strong and resourceful. I made a bow and I became the best shot in all the country of Paran. And now I am the leader of a strong family. So I guess I will say thank you today to Abraham for what he gave me. Because on that day, when he gave me the bare minimum for survival, I finally understood where I stood with him. I understood that I was less important to him than the irritation of his wife, less important than his favored son, and less important than the precious promises he had received from his God that apparently had nothing to do with me. No, he didn't give me what I really needed, but the gift he gave made me the man I am today. So thanks, Dad. I guess. But let me just add a personal word to my brother Isaac. Yitzi, for so long, I blamed you for everything that happened. But today I realized that was not fair. It wasn't you. You probably didn't even know anything about it. So brother, I just wanted to say today that I am glad to see you here. I'm not sure that I'll ever forgive Dad for everything, but I think it is time for me to forgive you and for our relationship to get past all of that. So, what do you say, brother? Hi, everybody. In case you haven't guessed, I am Isaac, the Wonder Child. And Ishmael, I do appreciate what you have said here today. I remember the day that you left. I didn't understand. All I knew was that my big brother was gone. I really looked up to you, and I missed you a lot. And I know that you had some tough breaks, but I think you should know that it wasn't always so great being the chosen one. Sometimes I think you were the lucky one to have been cast out like you were. Things kind of got crazy after you left. One day, when I was a bit older, Dad got me up really early one morning. He said that we were going on a trip, just him and me and a couple of the servants. We headed off, walking for days. And the whole time, Dad was acting so weird. It was like he wouldn't look at me. And when I asked him questions, he would give me these evasive answers. I got more and more nervous as the days went on. And then, well, we ended up on the top of some mountain where he took me and tied me up and, well, he had a knife. And he had it right at my throat. I was so sure that I was going to die, that he was going to kill me. My own father. I still wake up sometimes in a cold sweat, and I'm right back there. I felt so helpless. Dad said that it was something that God demanded, and that God wanted it because my father loved me so much. He said that God saved me in the end. I was a child. I didn't understand any of it. And all of this, I've got to say, left me with a few mixed feelings about my dad. What he had done also broke up Mom and Dad's marriage. When we returned and she heard about it, she took me and left. We went to live at Kiryat Arba, while Dad stayed at Beersheba. I never saw much of Dad after that. And Mum died not too long later. I'm convinced that she never got over what had happened on that mountain. I guess I never did either. But I watched her as it ate at her until she just ran out of the will to live. I couldn't even bring myself to come here, to this very place, when Dad buried Mum right over there. I was just too afraid of what I might do when I saw his face. So, really, Dad, apparently because he loved me so much, didn't just terrorize me. He also robbed me of having both of my parents in my life. And today, I find out that he is responsible for the fact that you were not part of my life either, Ishmael. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I am not going to let anybody take from me the only family that I have left. Ishmael, you and Rebecca are my family now. I love you. And Rebecca and I want you and your family to be part of our life. As soon as we are done here today, I'm going to go back to live in Bir Lahai Roy, to the place where Hagar, that's Ishmael's mom, in case some of you don't know, where she encountered God. I kind of think that the God she encountered there may have more to say to me than the one that was waiting on top of that mountain who still gives me chills. We will be living close to you, Ishmael, and I hope we see a lot of each other. The distinguished gathering falls silent, many of them dabbing tears from their eyes, as the two brothers end their remarks by embracing each other. Many years have passed, and we now find ourselves in the very same setting. Once again, leading people from all the surrounding nations have come together to celebrate the life of a man who has lived as a nomad among them and who has earned their respect. A hush falls over the exalted company as they lean forward in their seats to hear the first speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. My brother and I want to thank you all for being here today. It really means a lot to us that you came to honor the memory of our father. I am Esau, Isaac's oldest son. I was only about a minute older, mind you. Jacob came out right after me, and the old midwife told me that she came out grasping my heel. He's kind of been grasping at my heels ever since, too, if you know what I mean. But even though we were twins, Jacob and I were always so different. I was, and I think you'd agree, wouldn't you, Jake? I was always Dad's favorite. I mean, we had the same interests. We would discuss our fighting and hunting exploits. We would spend hours talking together about spears and the latest model of bows. And he loved the game that I would bring home to eat. Said that there was nothing that tasted like it. But I wanted to let you know, Jake, that it wasn't because he didn't love you. It was more that he didn't know how to talk to you. You were into things that he really didn't understand. You were always in the kitchen and working with Mum on her stuff. And, by the way, I know that many people think that all of that is only women's work. But Jacob was a wizard in the kitchen. Why, he could cook up anything. When I remember what he could do with a bunch of red lentils, still makes my mouth water to this day. Why, I would have given up just about anything for a taste of my brother's cooking. But that is a whole other story, and not what we have come together to talk about today. Dad loved both of us in his way. That is what I'm trying to say. But he had a hard time showing it. He was troubled. We both knew it. We would hear him waking up, screaming sometimes in the middle of the night, crying out about a knife and how he couldn't move. It would make my blood run cold just to hear it. And I think that maybe because of some of the things that had happened to him, he was afraid of loving people too much. He was afraid that the people he loved would do terrible things to him. So, instead of being real with us and with Mom, Dad would do this thing where he played us off against each other. And I think that Jacob and me got caught up in all of that. We felt like we had to beat each other out to get Dad's love. And because of that, we ended up fighting with each other a lot. And I'll never forget, and never forgive myself, for the day when I was so mad at Jacob because he got something from Dad that I wanted, that I vowed that I was going to kill him. And Jake heard about it, and he ran away. And by the time my foolish anger had passed, it was too late. And he was gone, long gone. And I regretted making him go. I missed years of our shared life. He went out and fell in love and had a whole family, and I never got to be part of it. Never got to hold my little nephews and nieces. And he never got to see my growing family. But praise be to Yahweh. He did come back eventually. And at the ford of Jabbok, we made our peace. And I'm so glad that we have been close ever since. Our dad, he had his struggles. There's no doubt about that. But that never kept me from loving him. He meant the world to me. I know that the last few years have been really hard. He couldn't see. He started to get really confused, and there were times when he didn't even recognize me. But I'll always remember my dad as he was in his prime. He was strong. He was dedicated to the God that he met and came to know in Bir Lahai Roy. He loved Mom so much. Sometimes he couldn't even control himself when he was around her, and he got in trouble for that. And he was always so fun to be around, with that big belly laugh and dry sense of humor. Oh, I'm gonna miss you, Dad. And I know I won't forget you. Thanks. Thanks for being you. Hey, everybody. In case you haven't guessed yet, I'm Jacob, the heel grabber. I'm the twin that was just a few minutes too late and had to spend my life trying to catch up to my big brother, who I always looked up to. As you may have picked up here today, my dad and me had our problems over the years. I never quite felt like I could be the son that he really wanted to. But that didn't matter, did it? Because Esau was always there to be the big, hairy hunter that he had always imagined. I feel today like I've come to terms with all of that. But I spent a lot of time pretending to be who I wasn't, just to earn my dad's approval. And I thought that was okay. I thought that it was just something between him and me, and that it didn't hurt anybody else. But it did. I learned that it hurt Esau. And because I dragged Mom into the whole thing too, I know that it caused a lot of strain in her marriage. I went away for a while on my own. Okay, I admit it. I ran away because I was afraid of what you might do to me, Esau. But I want you to know, brother, that I do not hold any of that against you. That journey was exactly what I needed. I encountered the God of my father in a place that I call Bethel. And then I found a family of my own in a place called Padan Aram. And today, I come back to you a father myself. I have 12 fine sons of my own, and I don't even know how many daughters. I also come back as someone who knows the reality of grief in new ways, as I have just lost my most beloved wife, Rachel, in the birth of my youngest son. The God of Bethel knows that I have made a lot of mistakes with my children. when I think of what some of my children, like Levi and Simeon, have done, or the quarrel I have with my eldest, Reuben, to this day. It makes me quake. But that is not just on them. Though, Reuben, this does not let you off the hook for what you have done, and can you please just leave Bilhah alone for 1 minute? I know. I haven't always been the father I needed to be. And that gives me a lot of sympathy for my dad. I know I didn't make things easy for him. And I know that he was really trying to do his best, even if he did get some things wrong. So, let us celebrate Isaac, the son of Abraham, and let us honor his life by putting aside all of those things that needlessly divide us one against the other. My brother and I are so thankful that you have honored us by being here today. I hope you all stay and join us as we feast in his memory. As a working Presbyterian minister, I have attended many funerals over the years and had a hand in planning the majority of them. I know how important they are. They are important times for processing grief and remembering the dead fondly. But ultimately, they are not for the dead. They are for the living. They are all about how we go on from here and live our best lives without our loved ones. And that often means that they are important times for coming to terms with some of the hurts of the past and for reconciliation with the people we journey forward with. It doesn't always happen, to be sure, but I have seen enough examples of significant reconciliation and reconnection happening at funerals that I know they are a thing. And I believe that the authors of Genesis did have such a thing in mind when they made a point of mentioning how two sets of brothers, who both had seen significant strife between them, came together to bury their fathers. That is it for this episode of Retelling the Bible. Thanks for listening. Share the word by telling somebody else about this podcast. The theme music for the podcast is Ada, and the mood music for this episode was Music for Funeral Home Part 11. The music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed in the Creative Commons, and can be found at Incompetech.com. Sound effects from Pixabay. You can contact me on Bluesky at Retelling the Bible and on the Facebook page Retelling the Bible. Show notes for this episode have been posted at retellingthebible.wordpress.com. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters, and a special shout out to Amma, whose encouragement finally got me to get around to telling this story, which I found so meaningful. Go to patreon.com/retellingthebible to join them in supporting this podcast. This is Retelling the Bible, and I have been your storyteller, W. Scott McCandless.